by Rick Sobey, Sobey at lowolson.com. Updated January 15, 2018, 10 hours 8 minutes and 30 seconds. AM EST Arthur Lynch, an abutter of Sal's Pizza in Billerica, wrote douchebag on his barn because he's upset with the pizza chain's rebuild project. Customers can see this word when they park at Sal's Pizza on Boston Road. Son, Rick Sobey, Billerica, there has got to be a law against this. That's the reaction from displeased parents who see the provocative word, many would call it offensive and nasty, while they drive down the busiest road in Billerica. A resident should not be allowed to write douchebag on a barn in public view, a chorus of parents have told The Sun. The town must find a way to make the disgruntled resident remove the word from his Boston Road barn, they argue. The owner of the barn, Arthur Lynch, wrote this term because he has been upset with the rebuild project next door at Sal's Pizza, despite the business following every condition of the permit that was approved by Billerica boards. During interviews with legal experts last week, they stressed that Lynch is not crossing the line because the First Amendment protects speech that may offend people. However, a couple lawyers mentioned a possible avenue for the pizza chain to take legal action, a long shot that could force Lynch to remove the word from his property. The attorneys pointed to the space on Sal's property for 2 retail tenants. What if a tenant becomes hesitant to rent because of the word next door? Would economic damage be grounds to remove the term? It'd be very tough to prove, but Sal's could try to show they had a contract in hand, and then the prospective tenant walked away because of the word on the side of the house, said Peyton Paxson, who teaches constitutional law at Middle Community College. It'd be a challenge for Sal's to prove that, that's for sure, Paxson added. It comes down to the neighbor's property rights, which are paramount in this country, the lawyer emphasized. Arguing that this word is causing economic harm is not a slam dunk because Lynch has First Amendment rights on his own property, Paxson said. Patricia Talty, a constitutional law expert, agreed it would be challenging to prove economic damages in this situation. You would need to show the person was initially interested in renting, and then they weren't because of this. That's just very difficult to do, said Talty, a UMass Lowell visiting lecturer. Marcia Kazarosian, former president of the Massachusetts Bar Association, said Sal's could argue the abutter wrote this word to cause his business to suffer. If he did it intentionally, knowing Sal's would lose business, would he be liable? Kazarosian asked. Like the other lawyers, she said it'd be unlikely for Sal's to win because of the power of the First Amendment. She compared this word on the barn to a neighbor with a messy backyard. If an ugly yard caused tenants to avoid renting next door, Sal's couldn't sue the neighbor for having a dirty property. Even if the word douchebag does cause economic harm, I think it's the same kind of thing as an unsightly backyard, Kazarosian said. Justin Silverman, executive director of the New England First Amendment Coalition, also used a neighbor eyesore as an example. If a neighbor's unattractive political signs make it difficult for an abutter to sell their home, the neighbor with the signs is protected by the First Amendment, Silverman said. Government officials can't tell that person to keep quiet, he said. That would really undermine the whole point of the First Amendment. Even if a word offends some people, an individual is allowed to write it on her property. The Westboro Baptist Church's hateful speech at funerals is protected, Talty pointed out. Also, the Asian American band The Slants won a Supreme Court battle last year to name themselves a slur. The person crosses the line when the language incites violence, the lawyer said. Things like fighting words that incite people to fight, or a crowd to riot, Kazarosian said. While the lawyers had different perspectives on this situation in Billerica, they agreed it was a very unique dispute. The teardown and rebuild of Sal's Pizza happened after the company received approval from the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals. As part of the rebuild, Sal's Pizza constructed a 6-foot fence, a height within the conditions of the permit. Lynch, 66, who lives at 324 Boston Road, says he's upset with the fence. It was higher before the rebuild, so patrons couldn't look into his yard. Mark Lalumire, Billerica's building commissioner, has followed the construction at Sal's Pizza. Because Lynch wanted a higher fence, Sal's Pizza agreed to an 8-foot fence of his choice. A week later, workers were installing the 8-foot fence, but Lynch had a fit throwing them off his property, according to Lalumire. As a result, Sal's Pizza proceeded with the 6-foot fence, and Lynch wrote douchebag on his own barn, which customers can see when parking at the pizza chain. Follow Rick Sobey on Twitter at Sobelson.